the Palace of Speed. The chaos early on in this race.
Hot.
Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, one of the greatest circuits in the Americas. We're here at the virtual Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for Race 5 of Season 11 of the Spec-5 World Tour. My name is Alex Andersen. I've been joined in the commentary booth by Randall McGrew with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck, and we are here at this legendary circuit that hosts all sorts of races from NASCAR to IMSA to small local sports car competitions, and Spec 5 is going to be a heck of a show here tonight, Randall.
That's absolutely right. Mid-Ohio, one of the most underrated tracks on the iRacing service, and I've often heard it said by people in other leagues that if this track was in Europe, it would get all kinds of love. So I think maybe its only downfall is that it exists in Ohio and not Europe. We're in for a really good race. This is a great combo.
Most certainly. You have that long straight after turn 2. You have the hairpin of turn 2, and then all sorts of sections where drivers are going to be all over each other trying to make moves and just trying to make the most of these opening laps and trying to be there at the end. Mitchell Peak currently sits atop the qualifying charts 2 minutes in. It looks like Greg Brockway was the only one on track right now. It looks like everybody else currently in the pit lane is as Michael Coates only behind Mitchell Peak by just under 300. To notice Adams only 7,000s back. And Greg... excuse me. These... So here we go. We got to say something. Adam's very smart, right? Adam's very smart. So we are in
Adam Thompson?
Yeah, Adam Thompson, our producer, Randall. He's not technically live, so we're looking at the end results of qualifying right now, but this is Greg Brockway on his qualifying run right now, heading into turn number 4. I want to say that is, I'm pretty sure that little kink counts as a corner, but we'll see how he got there in the 17th.
Yeah, it looks like he's got a pretty tidy lap going on. It's a very tricky course. Lots of places with elevation changes that'll cause you to have to back out of the throttle, and it's really a delicate balance in a car like the MX-5 to keep the momentum going and not sacrifice time without losing the rear end of the car. You see, he's nearing the end of the lap now. He really struggled there on that turn in, got it in there just a little bit early. One of the toughest corners on the service right here to come down the hill into the carousel on the run to the front straight and to the start-finish line. And we're going to be seeing a wicked turn one here. You're going to see barely any braking at all. He's just absolutely going to fling the car in here and try to get over to that curbing. A bit of oversteer there. You're going to expect that, especially if you get that curbing that much. Has to back out of it to catch it. A long run up to the keyhole. Turn two. It's a very tight double apex hairpin. You see, sometimes some drivers will sacrifice this first apex to get a good run out, and other drivers will hit both apexes just the way Greg did here. Another long run, big slipstreaming opportunity here for the run down. I think it's actually called turn 5, maybe turn 4. They count one of these bends as a turn. Big braking zone coming up, one of the best overtaking spots on the track. And then we get into the wild ride on the back half of the lap. Lots of elevation. You need to try to maintain as much momentum. You see he's dealing with a lot of oversteer there in the car. Trying to just feather the brake, keeping the throttle as much as possible. Riding these curbs, but not too much. They can really cause the front end to load up and oversteer. And then a very tricky corner here into Thunder Valley. You see dealing with a bit of understeer, catches the car, and then oversteers over that crest as the back end unloads. Coming on the approach here to the carousel, a very quick third gear left-hander leads you to the top of the hill, and this is so tricky to get right. The elevation change, the turn going, and you're trying to brake the whole time and get that good, clean run down the start-finish straight to finish your lap.
It's almost like a triple apex corner, that last one. Very hard to get that one right. And I mean, that middle sector might as well just be VIR's roller coaster section there. It's a lot of elevation change, a lot of quick corners that you have to nail. And it looks like Greg did a pretty decent job just hanging on to the car, but not the fastest so far. Currently on his third lap as he heads to the hairpin one more time. Looks like he's got a green first sector, so he did all right through turn number 1. We'll see what happens through his second sector. And I mean, the first two sectors are basically one corner sectors. I mean, the first sector is basically just turn 1. Second sector is basically the hairpin. But this third sector right here, this is where it gets interesting, as this is where drivers are going to start to split up. Another green sector for Greg Brockways. No, he's around there. It looks like just barely noses it into the barrier, but that's going to end that good lap. And it looks like he's going to... Oh, no, he's still trying to get it rolling. Looks like he'll try and get it pointed in the right direction, start and finish his qualifying run.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to say something here. Greg, thank you so much for sending us the replay, but I am so sorry that you're the only car that we're watching right now. I promise you, there's nothing against you. We're just watching the only car that we can watch on track during qualifying.
You see, he's really struggling here to get the car going again. He's angered the tires and not going to have a lot of grip. And grip is at a premium around a track like this with all the elevation changes, the tough curbs, off-camber corners. No surprise that one incident is going to turn into others. And like you said, when they get into this middle section of the track on the back half, really going to see cars start to spread out. The different skill levels of the drivers will really become apparent, and it's a very tricky track. And if we have somebody that has bad qualifying, they're going to have a lot of trouble making their way through the field.
Yeah, and look at that. Just got loose going through that final right-hander like you were talking about, Randall. It's such a difficult corner to get correct. It's almost like there's 3 apexes you have to nail there. And it looks like Greg just got loose in the center, and he's bringing it down pit road now. So I think he might end his qualifying run off there. No, he's still got the white flag, so he still has his final lap, but it looks like that. Oh, no, I see what he's doing. He towed back to the pits just before he crossed the line, so that way he can still get an out lap and then start that final lap. So it looks like that will be his goal here, but he still has 1 lap left to complete.
And though that his little entry there into pit road brings up an interesting point. These drivers will have to stop during this race. And Mid-Ohio has one of the trickier pit entries on the iRacing service, second only to possibly Barber. So we could see some incidents develop there in that carousel as drivers try to peel off into pit lane and other drivers maybe get target fixated or don't realize what's happening and get into them, or possibly people overcooking the pit entry and getting into the barrier there on the pit lane. So they're going to have to be very careful. Hopefully they've all practiced that pit entry and are very familiar with how to take it at speed.
Yeah, it just like that last corner, it's a very difficult pit entry to get right. You pretty much have to bomb it into the final corner and then bring it out wide and then get it into the pit lane entry. And I think Adam is having a little bit of fun as he's brought back up the info screen, and it now says in the booth, it's no longer us. It says, Ray Lombardi, you are amazing. And now I don't doubt that, but I do, Adam, if you would like to pop in once more, I would like to just ask why. I'm a little perplexed here.
So I'm sitting here reading the YouTube chat right now, and Ray said that he did a reverse Q lap. And I would take that to assume, can you run the whole track in reverse without getting DSQ'd?
In reverse gear, yes. You can't run it backwards, you would get disqualified, but you could do it in reverse gear and go the regular way around, it'd be fine. Oh. So props to Ray if that's what he pulled off.
Yeah, Ray, if you could let us know here in the chat. Wait, hang on. Now we got Mosmit saying he's done it in real life. Are we talking about reversing around the whole track here at Mid-Ohio, or? Anyway,
Let's go backwards in the middle of a 25 car race. It'd be entertaining. But anyways, I mean, we're set up for a pretty good show here tonight. We are already seeing the qualifying results on the left. I'm not sure if Greg does ever come back out on the track to set another lap, as it looks like already just for the end of qualifying, Mitchell Peak ended up getting a pole. Michael Coates was pretty close to him in second. Notice Adam Jr. very close there in third. So the field obviously very packed together, which is going to give us a great race out here on this track.
Yeah, we can't get the grid to show guys until this qualifying ends. So if there's any interesting track facts here, just let us know in the chat. It's going to be kind of a boring here 4 minutes or so. I don't want to fast forward the replay and do something with the overlay. So yeah, I'm on in, boy.
This race will be very tricky for some of these drivers with the red numbers, like Barovich and Cyril and Greg Mack, as we see them kind of buried back in the middle of the field. If they're going to try to move forward, they're going to have to really pick and choose where they make their moves. And if somebody's really aggressive, they could make some of those moves in the back half and some of that twisty bit, but you really have to be careful and watch those people ahead of you to see where they make a mistake and try to pounce on it. But if you're going to make an opportunistic move, you need to make it happen quick. You need to make it stick. So it'll be a very interesting race for those in the midfield.
Yeah, and another thing that I do want to point out, I'm not sure if this is accurate, but if it is, it's going to prove to be pretty interesting for the drivers. I mean, usually when you go out on a racetrack, you want the track to be not too hot, but pretty hot. And this track temp, if I'm not mistaken, 71 degrees. And I'm not sure, that's looking under the track map. I'm not sure if that's the air temp or the track temp, but I believe that is the track temp. And that is a very cold track compared to what you normally see at any given circuit.
Yeah, that's going to make that first lap extra treacherous, as they're going to have to get those tires up to temperature. And they're not really going to have many corners to get those tires up to temperature before they get to those windy bits. And there's a long straightaway, which is going to actually kind of cool off those tires. Now, the good thing about the MX-5 is it really utilizes a lot of slip angle. So after one lap, maybe 1.5 laps, they should have those tires up to a good working temperature. And that means that this low track temp is going to see some really fast lap times out of these drivers.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, slip angle, let's see if I can explain it correctly. It's pretty much in between gripping a corner and drifting a corner. It's when the tires are exceeding the amount of grip they can carry in the middle of a corner, so they just start to deform to the side ever so slightly, allowing the car to appear as if it's going through a corner sideways. The driver doesn't have to turn as much, I think. Don't quote me on that. I believe that's what it is. I probably have to go back and check that, but I believe that is how slip angle works. It's pretty much, think of it as if you see a car going through a corner sideways, but the driver isn't counter steering, that's slip angle, I think.
The way that you can observe slip angle in a car is if a car has its front wheels on a line through an apex, like touching a white line near a corner, you'll see that its front wheels are touching and its rear wheels are not. And that degree of difference from the line with the front and the back is the slip angle that they're applying to those tires. And tires work. And I'm hearing now that we're going to take a break, so we'll be right back. When we come back, we'll be ready to grid up and see that race.
We're back after our short break from the Spec-5 World Tour at Mid-Ohio, and now we have never mind, it looks like we don't, but I was just about to lead, or to go through our starting grid right there. Here it is now. Mitchell Peak on pole with a 136.783. Michael Coates just under 300ths behind him in second. Otis Adams Jr. only 7,000ths behind Michael Coates there in third, and it's Camden Hibbett in fourth. Ronnie Coates in fifth. Simon Foweather in sixth. Tom Rath in seventh. Sean Hayes there in eighth has a commanding lead over any other open class driver. Nicky Borovic is there in ninth. Alexander Searle in 10th. Greg Mack in 11th. Lee Martin in 12th. Behind them, if we can get it to go a little bit further back. Come on, Adam, you got this. There you go. Tom Athan there in 13th. Brian Zabelski in 14th. Jerry D. Piero in 15th. Andrew Kosick in 16th. Greg Brockway in 17th. Josh Olson in 18th. John Casey in 19th. Ray Lombardi there in 20th. Jose Gonzalez in 21st. And David Tamira rounds out the field there in 22nd, I do believe. And just, Randall, one thing I cannot get over is the gap between the open class drivers. Sean Hayes up there in 8th, and then the next open class driver is back there in 13th with Tom Athan.
Last season, Sean Hayes was a standout every week, it seemed like. So no surprise to see him continuing that tradition. And I actually thought that he would be in a red number plate this season, and maybe they're letting him run the open category again in this shortened season, and next season put him in the pro category. But if I remember right, he won the open category last season by a pretty big margin.
No, he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, at Road America, there was an incident going into turn 3 he was involved in, and Ray Lombardi just barely got the amount of spots he needed to win the championship, and it looks like he's not even going to start this race, currently in the pit lane. Neither is David Tamira, as everybody else rolls off the grid. Mitchell Peak leads the field. And I gotta say, I think Mitchell Peak, he's been doing really good. He has a solid shot pretty much in any given night. And he's just been doing so good all season.
Yeah, Mitchell Peak, always a contender. He was a bit snake bit whenever I was commentating last season with some bad luck, but he seems to be doing the job that he does every week and has it up there in the front, and we should be having a good start.
Yeah, and the iRacing safety car into the safety of the pit lane as the field brings it down the start-finish straight. The green flag is out, and we are racing at Mid-Ohio. Trying to make a run on the outside as Michael Coates through turn number 1. It looks like Mitchell Peak can easily clear the field. Michael Coates trying to lock himself into second place there. And those are several cars off. Sean Hayes is one of them. Alexander Searle is back there. So is the 41 car. That is several cars off track in the first couple of seconds of this race. Otis Adams Jr. now trying to make a move around the outside of Michael Coates through the hairpin now. And Camden Hibbett might be trying to do the same thing, but single file now as they head down at this straightaway between turns 2 and 4. Tom Athan now the leader of the open class, and he's got Jerry D. Piero only 2 cars behind him. Here is Sean Hayes. Looks like the car, no, there is a little bit of damage on that left rear quarter panel. I'm not even sure what happened to him. It's
definitely a logjam going into the first corner there. So looks like maybe he got a little bit of contact on that left rear that started that thing, or maybe that was a result of that incident. The other car getting collected into the mayhem, but we saw him go off as well as Tom Rath and Searle, and now they got a lot of ground to make up. So they just need to buckle down and set some good lap times. Luckily for Sean Hayes, it looks like his damage is pretty minimal, and he should be having good steering and suspension still to finish this race.
And I need to... So, Jose Gonzalez and Ray Lombardi had a penalty, and that is why they started at the rear of the field. We are hearing now from our producer, and actually, Randall, I gotta mention, we gotta start to get this right. It's Tom Rathjay back there, who was also involved in that turn 1 incident. There was a 3-car wreck going into turn number 1, and now it looks like he's trying to make a move around Jose Gonzalez. Mitchell Peak still has a solid lead over the field as everybody starts to get just a little spread out now. It's a pretty close race all throughout the field. It's pretty much the entire main pack is pretty much 1st through 14th. Everybody is still right here all on top of each other. So, it's just a very close race, and that's what it's going to be for the first couple of opening laps. Just everybody's trying to make it through and just turn their attention towards the pit stops.
Everybody's dealing with cold tires, so you're going to see the leaders aren't pushing nearly as hard as they will after 2 or 3 laps. I expect to see Mitchell Peak turn up the wick on the pace here over the next lap or so. And as they get through this slower section and the winding corners and the elevation changes, start to see these pro drivers pull away from some of the open drivers and probably have a 2-pack race for a while. The big straightaways at the beginning of the lap kind of equalize any gains you can get through the slow section. So you have to be pretty quick to get up to pull away far enough to counteract that slipstream.
Yeah, and a group of cars that aren't going to pull away from each other, I tell you, is this main pack right here. Michael Coates doing a very nice job following Mitchell Peak through these last 2 sectors, and Otis Adams Jr. also doing a great job holding on. It's pretty much a bottleneck back here. Camden Hibbett trying to get around Simon Foweather, and now these drivers have almost lost the draft at this point. They're over a second behind as Otis Adams Jr. with the fastest lap, that time over the 1:36.751. As, I mean, these drivers, they need to turn their attention back to the top 3 or else they're going to lose them. As Simon Foweather off track into the cones, he saves it. Wow, great driving from that 236 car.
Very easy to get that first corner wrong, to carry just a little bit too much speed. You need to be absolutely on the limit as you go through there. So going a little bit wide there, manages to keep the car pointed in the right direction. Really no harm other than to those unfortunate bystander cones. So he's able to get back into that slipstream and continue that train.
Yeah, and I mean, now pretty much what they have to do back there in that second pack, they have to try and help each other down these straights and just try and stay single file through these final 2 sectors if they just want to try and start to close this gap down. But those top 3 are very fast, so Camden Hibbett trying to do all he can, but the gap isn't coming down nearly as much as he would want it to right now. But it looks like he's doing a pretty solid job getting that gap to close ever so slightly as Simon Foweather following Camden Hibbett. Now, I'm pretty sure we just got a good example of a slip angle from on board of Simon Foweather there. I believe you can see it happening to Camden Hibbett's car right there as he's just really pushing that Miata to try and catch back up.
And you can see it there in that corner as Camden Hibbett there was just barely kissing the apex there, and the rear wheels were quite far off the line. You see the 236 Simon Foweather there getting really loose. That's the trickiest corner out here. It'll reach out and grab you.
Yeah, and Camden Hibbett starting to close this gap down as he just set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:36.215. So Camden obviously proving he's very fast, and I would assume he's going to take that second pack with him. And one driver that we haven't talked about nearly as much as we should tonight is Ronnie Coates back there. And he's in 6th right now, and that's not something you normally see from him. So he's hanging out back here in 6th place. It looks like trying to close the gap to the field, as is everybody else. And just hasn't been the best race. I mean, he didn't get the best qualifying run. It looks like he was in 5th. He's down a place right now. So looks like just trying to just catch back up. Maybe, I mean, this track is a driver's track. I would say it's mostly a driver's track, so maybe just not one of Ronnie's strong suits, Mid-Ohio.
I think maybe he's biding his time. He knows this is a long race, and the pit stop is going to be pretty big. He's not very far off the leader at this point, so he's not really out of contention. Maybe trying to save some fuel and just biding his time and waiting for an opportunity to present itself. While these cars are in a train, it's going to be hard to slipstream anybody down these long straightaways. So whenever he gets to the pit stop, he may be able to jump 3 or 4 spots just off of that. And as I can remember, Ronnie Coates was always the master of the pit stop strategy. So if I'm behind Ronnie Coates, I'm pitting when he pits.
Yeah, but the only thing is, you said he's a master of the pit stop strategy, and that means he probably also knows what he's doing in terms of fuel and tires, so it might be a little bit difficult for cars behind him to follow when he pits if he's taking a completely different amount of fuel than the car behind him. But I think Mitchell Peak looking like he's running a different scheme this week than his normal orange and gray one. And I would say it's a very nice scheme back there. Whoa, is somebody dirt tracking it back there? That was the leader of the open class, Tom Athan, back there, going for a little joyride, cutting the grass back there. I would say he's helping out the track workers of this place with that move. It was very nice of him.
There's a little bit of charity work there, mowing the grass by Tom Athan. We're going to see it all race long. People are going to try to push that first corner to try to get as much speed through there as possible to get that slipstream and try to close gaps up or try to make a move into the keyhole. Just didn't go Tom Athan's way that time. But now we're seeing Mitchell Peak under a lot of pressure from Coates.
Yeah, Michael might have had a shot to get around Peak there heading into turn number 4, but it looks like he just tried to hang out back there. And I mean, for the good, I mean, you don't really want to make a move this early. It's probably for the better as they head into Thunder Valley now. And I mean, I think Mitchell Peak's strong suit is just this windy middle sector. He just has the car tuned perfectly for that middle sector, and he just starts to ever so slightly pull away. But like you mentioned earlier, that short shoot, or not really a short shoot, that straight between the hairpin and turn 4, I mean, it just brings everybody right back together.
That's right. The danger, though, of trying to make a move in a pack like this is if you get it wrong, you're going to fall victim to the drivers behind you. So if you make a move and you can't stick it, instead of gaining a position, you're going to find yourself giving up 2 or 3 spots to the drivers behind you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just the tricky part of this track. You have to know when to make your moves, and you have to know if you're going to be able to complete them. And it looks like Camden Hibbett going for one right now on the inside of Otis Adams Jr. through the keyhole, and it looks like he will get that done. Simon Foweather tried to take advantage of that, couldn't quite do it, as Otis Adams Jr. put his left sides off track ever so slightly out of the exit of that hairpin. As Camden Hibbett moving his way through the field, he's up to third now.
Really stretching his legs and flexing that young muscle, getting himself up to the third position, making his way through the pack just a little bit. He's up only 1 spot. He had a really good qualifying, but this isn't the first time we've seen him make moves on the track. This kid has a lot of speed.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing behind the wheel of that 32 car. We've already seen him win earlier this season, and he might be trying to do that again tonight now as he heads through, as these drivers head through Thunder Valley now. Mitchell Peak still leads them. He's been leading every lap so far. He's led pretty much all of the first 10 minutes. And Michael Coates, I mean, he's had some good opportunities to get around going into turn number 4. He's had some decent shots, just hasn't been able to pull anything off yet. But Camden Hibbett might be looking to change that here as they head out of the final corner to take lap number 7.
If I'm Mitchell Peak, I'm definitely keeping an eye on Camden Hibbett. If I see him pop out on the straightaway, I may move over and give him a little slipstream to help him fight Coates. But other than that, you're just turning that, not even looking at that mirror, and just keeping your line and trying not to fall asleep and get caught unawares on a move from Coates. But as long as he keeps this pace up, I don't think Coates has much for him, except for maybe on the slipstream.
And that's just the biggest part of these races, is that slipstream is the easiest way to make moves on other cars. And I mean, that's just what a lot of drivers take advantage of to win, is just using that slipstream in the final couple of laps to take a solid lead and just trying to fend all they can. And I mean, I think Michael Coates, I mean, Camden Hibbett really stalling his advance, and I think Michael Coates doing the same thing here. He's going to let Mitchell Peak lead there and just try and save a little bit of fuel behind him, but very close there through turn number 5. But I would reckon just Michael Coates trying to save some fuel, and that's why he's not made this move yet.
He knows that if he makes the move and it doesn't stick it's going to cause disaster for him, and he's going to have way more spots to make up. So discretion, the better part of valor right now. I expect they'll probably keep it pretty calm until the pit stop. After the pit stop, though, all bets are off, as well as the gloves will be, and we'll start seeing a lot of fighting as Camden Hibbett may be sniffing an opportunity here. Is going to back off just enough to stay right there on Coates' bumper, but Coates definitely feeling the pressure now.
Yes, now they head down the front straightaway. Camden Hibbett has an opportunity. This move to turn 1 looks like he's going to hold off on it for now. You can see a little bit of a lift there in the timing. It looks like he might maybe try and make this move to the hairpin. We've seen him make moves in the hairpin before when he got around Otis Adams Jr. He might be trying to do the same thing now as they head through the hairpin, but it looks like he's just going to hang out in line. And I mean, that's what we're going to be seeing for the next couple of laps until we get to the pit cycles, is drivers just trying to save as much fuel as they can, just trying to just maintain single file in this pack. And I mean, when I say fuel saving, using that slipstream, you don't have to go full throttle down these straights. You can just stay maybe half throttle, and that slipstream will just keep you up at full speed. But now Camden Hibbett going for the lead even, trying to get a 2-for-1. Simon Foether tried to do the same thing. Michael Coates is around now. They're side by side for the lead. It looks like Otis Adams Jr. got it pointed back in the right direction. Those drivers will still have a shot, but it's side by side for the lead. Now as they head through turn number 6, through 7 and 8 now into Thunder Valley. Mitchell Peak still going to hold the lead, but he just had a challenge for the first time tonight, and that was, it looked like what happened there is, I mean, maybe Simon Foether saw the send that Camden Hibbett had and tried to do the same thing. Maybe he got Otis Adams Jr. in it to Michael Coates there, but it looks like it didn't affect those two all that much. Michael Coates and Otis Adams Jr. still very much in this race, but wow, that was a very big send from Simon Foether, and it just didn't work all too well.
Very importantly to say, here, Mitchell Peak did get a challenge. He was able to fend it off. He did initially get overtaken, but through a nice little parry and riposte, was able to get that position back while chaos ensued behind them. And now Ronnie Coates came out the big winner, and that is up to P4 ahead of Adams and ahead of Coates. Now with a bit of a gap, but the slipstream should help him close that up. And actually a little bit of opening here might make him a little faster in the slower section, as he doesn't have to back off so early into some of these corners.
Yeah, and he will have a pretty decent run down this straight. He doesn't have much slipstream. The cars in front of him definitely have a greater amount, but he has a decent amount of slipstream back here, so he has a good opportunity right here to just hang out, try and save a bit of fuel here. Is, yeah, like you said, with him sending it deeper into corners, he most certainly did there, and he made up about a 10th doing that now, but it looks like he's losing it through this middle sector as Michael Coates trying to make up all the time he can behind him. Now Ronnie Coates is starting to close the gap.
And if he can time it just right, he could find himself in a position to make a move at the end of one of these long straightaways to pick up third position or maybe even second and start to challenge for the lead. But Ronnie Coates, very cagey driver, will take his time, and he's all about being there at the end of the race. So I don't expect that he'll push his tires too hard. He just wants to close this gap and maintain contact.
Alex, I want to shout out the chat real quick again before things get a little spicier. Ray Lombardi in the chat again, throwing some zingers at you tonight, said, well, because we did it on Friday, at least you had time to eat your pizza and get through traffic tonight.
That's also true. I had something to do last night at the Charlotte Roval, and, the drive over to Mid-Ohio, it was a very long drive. Found a nice hotel, didn't have to worry about being late, and we're here and we're ready to tackle this tonight. As now Simon Foether going for a move for second on Camden Hibbett there into there, but it looks like Camden Hibbett trying to get the over-under on him now as they head down the back straightaway. Camden Hibbett just trying to do what he can to maintain at this spot, but don't know if it's going to work, as Simon Foether's got a nice run off the top, but all the while Mitchell Peak is liking what he sees in his rearview mirror right now. We're just losing time to him, but it looks like Camden Hibbett going to maintain second place, and that just drew Ronnie Coates right back up to these drivers.
That's absolutely what happened. We see Foether gets a little loose coming over the crest and gets off and maybe a little bit of the barrier. That's a very tricky spot. Carries a bit too much speed as he comes over the crest. The rear end unloads and gets a lot of grip in the front, and it just bites him. He spins the car. He gets it going back in the right direction. He's lost some time here, back to 7th place, but it looks like very minimal damage on that car. He can carry on.
Yeah, and it's just going to be an uphill battle after that for Simon Foether. He's doing such a good job, but now he's just going to have to try and claw his way forward. And that's just something that's so difficult to do in these cars, especially with the way the slipstream works with them. It's so hard to just make up ground and claw your way forward unless you have a good run down straightaways by having other cars to help draft off of you, and you can keep the car fast through the twisty sections of this racetrack. And we'll have to see if Simon Foether can get that done. And now we look at Ray Lombardi currently sitting behind Tom Rath, who was involved in that lap 1 wreck, currently just hanging out right now.
Yeah, he's got a nice little tow from Tom Rathje, and honestly, if you're going to be behind somebody even at the back of the pack, Tom Rathje is a pretty good choice. I've raced with him in these MX-5s, and he's pretty quick. Unfortunate incident for him in lap 1 that puts him back here this far in the pack, but he's definitely a fast one to follow, and he will get you some time.
Yeah, and Camden Hibbett now, it's looking like a 2-car race for the lead at the moment as Simon Foweather falling back really just took away Ronnie Coates' drafting opportunity there. And so he's got pretty much a 2.5 gap back to, or up to Camden Hibbett now, and he's just going to have to try all he can to close this now as they head towards Thunder Valley. But it looks like so far it's the Mitchell Peak show as Camden Hibbett currently in the shadow trying to work his way up to the front.
Ronnie Coates' number one goal right now is to close that gap up before the pit stop so that he can get all that track position back and try to get those spots in the pit. We know that he's the master of pit strategy, so it'll be interesting to see when he comes in. But right now, you're right, a 2-pony race up here at the front. And we're going to try to drive through the field. We're looking at Mitchell Peak, who's been in command of this race, has fended off one strong challenge from the P2 car, Camden Hibbett, who has come up through the field 2 spots. He had a very strong qualifying in P4 and was able to make a really, really strong aggressive move and get up to briefly into the lead. And now we have a big gap back to P4 with Ronnie Coates and Michael Coates. Same name, same sounding name, different spellings, not related, as we see a move there in the keyhole for P3. A very clean move.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, Randall, but all the while they are losing time to the top 2 fighting like this, and it looks like Ronnie Coates realizes this. Now he's pushing Michael Coates down the straightaway. The 2 Coates working together, and it looks like backing off the 213's rear bumper as they head into turn number 4. And I mean, it's just going to be an uphill fight for these drivers, but I do think they might be able to do it here if they just work together, stop racing each other, and focus their attention towards getting back to the leaders. They got a really good amount of time closed down there. Michael Coates, a very strong driver at this track, leading this group of cars, and if Ronnie Coates can just follow his tire tracks and Otis Adams Jr. just stays patient behind them, I think they could catch up to the leaders.
They should be able to catch up very easily here. Otis Adams, a bit of a wild card in this situation. I've seen him race very smart and just follow other cars. I've also seen him be aggressive and opportunistic, even in this race. So it'll be interesting to see if he continues with that. But so far, a good race for Otis. He's still in P5. He's down a couple spots from where he qualified, but he's still in contention to win this race.
I don't know if you noticed it, Randall, but it looked like Ronnie Coates just lost a lot of time there. He got very loose heading into the final corner, and that cost him pretty much almost a second to Michael Coates in front of him. And now he's got the entire field breathing down his neck as here's Tom Rathje once again just not able to rebound after this is Ray Lombardi in 16th. Though it looks like, actually I'm getting word from our producer that Tom Rathje spun, and that is why he's back so far. It doesn't look like it would have affected him too much because he didn't lose too much time. Probably just a simple off track and just trying to keep the car under control while he brings it back towards the racing surface as Ray Lombardi just trying to fight an uphill battle right now.
We jump to P8, Lee Martin. Lee Martin up 4 spots now, having a very good run. It was back there in the mid-pack. He's still a bit in the mid-pack, but making his way forward. Greg Mack and P9 up 2 spots, having a quiet race. Quiet's typically good. Tom Athan, the leader of the open class in P10 after that unfortunate incident, lap 1 with Sean Hayes, has a gap back to the second car in that open class in the form of Brian Zabelski running in P11.
Yeah, and I mean, that's and look at Jerry DiPiero. That's a friend that we know very well. SLR group, and currently he's sitting in a very comfortable P2 in the open class. He's got Andrew Kostic behind him, but he still needs to get around Brian Zabelski in front of him, and then Tom Athan if he wants the open class lead. But we are just under a minute away from we're just over a minute away from the halfway point of this race. So we're getting close to the pit stops, and I reckon these drivers at a track like this, they might try and stay out as long as they can, but I'm not quite sure what they might do here.
Well, we all know that I'm famously bad at predicting the pit stop strategy for this race, so I'm going to stick to my plan. When Ronnie Coates pits, I pit.
Hey, we still need to get a jingle for that we can put into the stream where it can be, because Randall, I think you mentioned this, where if we can get a jingle going, like Randall's wrong pit calls. I think we did something. We had something like that. I don't mean to be rude. I'm genuinely serious. Didn't you say we could do something like that?
I absolutely did. It would be a very fitting thing to have that as a segment here, because I have gotten the Spec-5 call pit strategy wrong just about every time. So yeah, my go-to strategy nowadays is pit when Ronnie Coates pits.
And hey, the best part of that is when you finally do get it right, man, it's gonna be a party. It's gonna be massive.
Yeah, save your red marker for the calendar on the day that I get a Spec-5 pit strategy correct.
Absolutely. Sean Hayes missed that corner.
This run a little bit wide. I wonder if he's suffering a little bit of damage, or suffering from a little bit of that damage after that lap 1 incident. You see the right rear also looking a little caved in there. Maybe the track on the rear is a little bit off. It's going to cause a little bit of oversteer in some of these corners. Holding on to it now. We're back at 17th with Jose Gonzalez running P5 in the open class. Haven't talked much about Jose, and typically in a broadcasted race like this, if you don't get talked about, you're normally having a good race.
Yeah, and Otis Adams Jr. and Brian Zabelski are going to be the first two takers of the pit lane. The problem with Otis Adams Jr. pitting right there is he's all by himself, and I know there's only one real straightaway where you can use the slipstream, but that is still a lot of potential time that could go to waste there for Otis Adams Jr. if he doesn't get a good pit stop. Rathje into the pits as well. I reckon he might fix a little bit of damage from that lap 1 incident as well. But Brian Zabelski now out of the pits as well as Otis Adams Jr. So now we just have to wait for all the other leaders to come into the pit lane, and that's where this race is going to really start to pick up.
And here we're seeing, briefly we saw there, John Casey. What we're going to have to deal with is cars coming out of the pits. If they come out of the pits at the wrong time, could spell a little bit of trouble down that straightaway at different speeds. Like we're about to see right here. Actually, Josh Olson should be able to cover this off just barely, but that gap was almost just right for that car of Tom Rathje to come out and to be a much slower moving chicane in front of him. Greg Brockway now effectively 20th as we're working our way through the pit cycle. Having a very quiet race, just clicking off laps here at the back. It's really struggled in qualifying and is now just trying to bring it home in the race. And the leaders coming into the pits.
Hey, there you go, Adam. You got it back to the leaders. So Mitchell Peak and Cameron Hibbett into the pits, as well as Nicky Borovic, Lee Martin, and Greg Mack. And now, looks like Ronnie Coates and Simon Foweather stayed out just trying to make up some time, maybe try and take less fuel. So Randall, I don't know, could be right on the follow Ronnie Coates strategy. And I thought Mitchell Peak just missed his stall there, but nope. Gets a perfect stop there. It looks like they're going to take left side tires. It makes sense. There are a lot more left-handers than there are right-handers on this circuit. So the tires are back on this car. And now Mitchell Peak just waiting for the fuel to come out. It looks like Cameron Hibbett just got his done. Now Mitchell Peak out of the pits, and so is everybody else. Is Nicky Borovic, Lee Martin, and Greg Mack make way for the pit exit. It looks like Jose Gonzalez pit that time by as well. And there's Sean Hayes, who was the pole sitter for the open class, and it looks like Cameron Hibbett there was just trying to push Mitchell Peak, not trying to race him at all. And that's just what they have to do to better themselves for the end of this race. And I think if you're Ronnie Coates at this point, you might as well just try and run the tank out as long as you can, just to try and have to take the least amount of fuel possible. What do you think, Randall?
Well, it doesn't really matter when they pit. They still have to take the same amount of fuel, varying based on how much they saved. They will be able to take or click off a little bit faster lap times the more that they run the tank dry, but you need about the same amount of fuel regardless of when you pit to make the end of the race. So that doesn't really so much play into the pit strategy, but if you're able to click off faster laps, you're probably using a little less fuel by the way that iRacing calculates fuel consumption. So it looks like Ronnie Coates now into the pit lane. So Ronnie Coates and Simon Foweather have dove into the pit lane and will be coming out on cold tires, possibly in front of our effective leaders.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold or pretty smart move to pit in front there. So looks like Adam supporting Andrew right now, supporting Andrew Kosick there, was in the third in the open class, but it looks like the leader of the open class just pit that time by Tom Athan now. So Jerry DiPiero, our lad right there, he's the leader of the open class right now, and he's got Andrew Kosick right behind him now as they head through the hairpin. So if we can pull off this info screen so we can actually take a look at what's happening on the circuit. Oh, now it's swapped to Go Jerry there as he's leading the race now. So Adam having a little bit of fun behind the booth. Now we can actually see what's happening again. As it looks like Camden Hibbett and Mitchell Peak were able to get around Simon Foweather, Otis Adams, and Ronnie Coates there. So it looks like it's going to be a 2-car race for the pro class lead, as Camden Hibbett actually got the lead of that pro class, I believe, into turn 4 on the previous lap. Mitchell Peak might be trying to get back around him here, but it looks like trying to push him down the straight. Now he goes to the inside here, so he has a bit of a run. This is what Simon Foweather wants to see in front of him, these two racing, as he wants to try and close this gap up. Now it looks like a little bit wide for Mitchell Peak. There's pretty much after that long straightaway, pretty much every corner is affected by the one before it.
And Ronnie Coates is the big loser there in the pit strategy department. Maybe didn't attack pit entry well enough or took a little too much fuel. It's tough to say. He maybe also took 4 tires. That could also explain why he lost so much time in the pit lane. But this battle up front now with the open class drivers sticking it out for a couple laps was really going to could really affect the point standings at the end of the season for the open class, with Jerry DiPiero going to pick up bonus points for leading a lap around here, and Andrew Kosick maybe will not, unless he can find his way around before the pit entry.
Hold on. I have a question. And that question is, we're looking at the pit stop counts right now. Ray Lombardi has 2. And he's in front of Mitchell Peak and Camden Hibbett.
That's because Ray Lombardi started the race from the pits, so I think it's detecting that he had a pit stop.
Yeah, but then why would he have 2 though? So Ray Lombardi might have. Ray Lombardi could be the provisional leader of this race. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that, but Ray Lombardi could be the provisional leader. Looks like a little bit of a message there from Adam. Looks like he's trying to fight around how he unplugged his microphone, and it looks like he said, "Hi, Ray. What's up, man?" There up top. You see that? And as Andrew Kosick currently tries to chase down Greg Brockway, I reckon these two might have to try and come into the pits this lap. I'm not sure when the pit cycle ends, but it looks like just trying to take the least amount of fuel possible to these two.
Definitely, Andrew Kosick is trying to stay out as long as possible, hoping that Jerry DiPiero pits in front of him so that he can lead a lap and get a bonus point as well. But I think Jerry is probably going to play spoiler and stay out as long as he can as well, and they'll probably come in at the same time. I am a little stumped on the Ray Lombardi situation. I suspect that maybe this is a glitch in the overlay, and that he hasn't actually stopped for fuel yet and will still need to pit to take on gas and possibly 2 tires on the left side of that car.
Yeah, so it looks like he's probably gonna have to come into the pits with Jerry DiPiero and Kosick now, as even if he had the lead, it looks like Mitchell Peak closing the gap up to him, with Camden Hibbett right behind him now, as Simon Foweather and Otis Adams Jr., all them still losing time. It looks like Otis was trying to push a little bit too hard there, pretty much just ended a poor Cone's life. He's just a bystander, man. That poor Cone had a family, man. But anyway, that's besides the point, as Ronnie Coates just took that spot away from Otis Adams Jr. Now he's going to try and track down Simon Foweather, as they have to turn their attention towards the leaders a lot now, or else it's not going to work out for him.
It looked like Simon Foweather ran a little wide there in turn 1, and then Otis Adams followed him and ran a little bit wider, and it gave Ronnie Coates the opportunity to get that spot back, which he took in the keyhole. These 2 drivers up front, I think they're privy to the situation. They need to break away just a little bit more before they start fighting again. Camden Hibbett looks like he's playing it a little bit safe right now. We see Brian Zabelski and Tom Athan fighting back here for P13 overall. In a very tough section to make a move, but Brian Zabelski is showing his nose in a lot of places, maybe trying to unsettle that open class driver Tom Athan into making a mistake so that he can get a free spot out of it.
Yeah, so that's just what we're going to have to look for here, and as it looks like right now, Jose Gonzalez trying to make a move on Josh Olson right there. Greg Brockway was following him. Now Ray Lombardi looks like he wasn't the provisional leader there. But now Jose Gonzalez gets a very risky move to the left side. He'll now have the outside into Thunder Valley. Josh Olson dirt tracking it there over the curb. Now into Thunder Valley over the crest of the hill. Bill wide there was the 21 cars. Jose Gonzalez still trying to track him down. It's a very close battle for a spot in the open class. It looks like this is for top 5 in the open. It looks like Tom Rathje is spectating the race there. There he is. Now he's getting it pointed back in the right direction, but it looks like he was I don't know if you guys heard of this, but there was a story at Brands Hatch for a Caterham race where some people pulled on the track in a Volkswagen Golf somehow. And I mean, that looked like a bit of a situation like that where just random car just sitting on the middle of the track getting a nice up close view of the other cars racing by.
Who's on board there as we see Ray Lombardi jump out of the pit. Jose Gonzalez trying to take the fight to Josh Olson, but also feeling the pressure from Greg Brockway. Now Tom Rathje going to get that move back, and we're seeing what we saw. Oh, with a little bit of contact, and Ray Lombardi with a big moment gets into the tires and the fence and gives the spectators a close-up view of the underbelly of one of those MX-5s. A very, very unfortunate ending there with just the slightest amount of contact. As we see Jerry DiPiero pull into the pit lane.
Randall, I know you're trying to play that off, man. I don't think that was an accident. He did not slow down at all. He was sick and tired of driving that car, and he floored it. That's something I would do after a race is over. He was sick and tired of driving that car, and he floored it. He was done. That's the funniest thing I've seen from up here in the booth. That was fantastic.
It was very hard to keep a straight face while that was happening. Brake failure. I'm seeing in the YouTube chat that it was possibly a hardware failure with failure in the brakes and the throttle stuck, and he was not able to get the car slowed down and turned it into a bit of a rocket ship and gave the fans quite a show there at the keyhole.
And it looks like Adam is showing his condolences as well with that message up top. Still finding ways to get around the unplugged microphone there with that RIP message. So, Ray, we hope for the best, but Ray, I'm sorry, that was funny. I can't lie to you, man. That was entertaining. Me as a spectator, personally, I was entertained. So I would say it's a win there, but hopefully that's not going to happen next week when we head to Interlagos. As Andrew Kosick still, with only 10 minutes to go in this race, still has not come into the pits, as Mitchell Peak and Camden Hibbett still right on top of each other for the lead, and it looks like Tom Athan has a pretty solid provisional open class lead right now, as Jerry DiPiero about 3.5 seconds behind him. Now Andrew Kosick into the pits, and we'll have to see where he comes out compared to Tom Athan, who is the current provisional leader of the open class.
Well, really important there for Andrew Kosick. He also got one of those bonus points for leading a lap. You don't see many open drivers getting those bonus points, and that's about the only way that they're typically able to get them is by staying out on a long fuel run strategy and not coming in early to change those tires and get the maximum benefit out of them. But right now we're seeing that gap has stabilized. Simon Fullweather is lurking back there in the background, so if Camden Hibbett and Mitchell Peak start fighting, that gap is going to quickly evaporate, bring Fullweather forward. Ronnie Coates and Otis Adams are going to be there to fight for it as well. We see Jerry DiPiero now behind Andrew Kosick. They still have Brian Zabelski between them up to Tom Athan, but there's a nice gap there.
Yeah, so it looks like Andrew Kosick wasn't able to challenge Tom Athan for the open class lead either. Now is a decent battle for second, when Cameron Hibbett just took the lead back from Mitchell Peak. Now, as we are in the final 10 minutes of this race, Cameron Hibbett just took back the lead. Now is we're going to have a battle for second in the open class if Jerry DiPiero can just maintain this gap. But all Tom Athan needs to do is to turn his attention away from those two, just start to drive away from Andrew Kosick and Jerry DiPiero. Now is Mitchell Peak and Camden Hibbett still right on top of each other for the lead. And one driver that I don't want to count out of this race just yet is Simon Fullweather in that 236 car. I mean, he hasn't been really closing this gap, but he hasn't been losing any time either. So he's just maintaining this gap, and he's doing a great job at it as he heads through the final couple of corners. It looks like he's just doing a really decent job back here, just trying to maintain this gap, and he's doing a very good job at it.
Right now, it looks like he may be a little bit faster there in that closing sector of the track, was able to close down the gap by a couple tenths in those final few corners. So that'll help him tick off just a bit more of that gap, get closer to that slipstream, and these two are going to start fighting. It's going to happen. Right now, they've already started fighting. Camden Hibbett is now in the lead. He has overtaken Mitchell Peak, so we did not see that happen. But I'm suggesting that it happened near the end of the lap, and that helped Simon Fullweather close that gap a little bit. if these two continue to fight, Simon Fullweather is going to be licking his lips and ready to get into that fight.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just what they're going to have to look for. I mean, actually, Simon Fullweather is actually closing that gap. About a lap ago, it's like 2.7 seconds. Now he has it under 2 as the drivers in front of them head through turn number 4. So Simon Fullweather actually closing this gap down now. You can see off the sectors there, knocked just under 2/10 into the gap in sector 1 and just under a tenth into sector 2 there. We'll have to see that time into through sector 3 there as they head through Thunder Valley now. Looks like the sector 3 timing board is going to be coming up soon. There it is, and it looks like, yeah, Simon Fullweather continuing to close this gap down. Got over 2.5 tenths there that time, and going to keep this open and see what he does through sector 4 now, but he's so far doing a great job closing the gap to Mitchell Peak, and he's got that gap to 1.5 seconds now. So Simon Fullweather is closing this gap over 3/10 there. So Simon Fullweather closing this gap. I would say he's definitely going to have a shot at the end of the race. His lap just then was almost 7/10 faster than Cameron Hibbett's that time.
He's got just under 7 minutes to get it done. So at this pace, he's definitely going to be there in the last 3 or 4 minutes. He's got the benefit of that gap in the slow sections where he can go push the car all the way into the braking zones where Mitchell Peak is having to back off a little bit, and Camden Hibbett likely driving a little bit defensively, not going as fast as he possibly could go to try to prevent Mitchell Peak from having a good opportunity to make an overtake. So that is really playing into Simon Fullweather's hands, and if Ronnie Coates can get with the program here and try to get up with Simon, then this could be a 5-way fight for the lead.
Yeah, as Ronnie Coates, it looks like he's doing a pretty steady job. He's not really losing at time to Simon Fullweather, but not really gaining any either. But I mean, if Simon Fullweather does catch back up to Mitchell Peak, and he'll probably be stuck behind him for a little bit, which could allow Ronnie Coates to use the slipstream of Simon Fullweather to catch back up. But Jerry DiPiero and Andrew Kosick now just trying to do all they can to catch up to Brian Zabelski to have a shot at Tom Athan, who's currently running away with this in the open classes. Andrew Kosick, I mean, these two have had such a good race so far, and they're just trying to finish it out as best as they can, and they do have a shot if they can close this gap down.
And if Brian Zabelski starts to get a little bit punchy and wants to get that spot away from Tom Athan for those points, you'll definitely see these two close that gap up just like we're seeing up front, and we could have a nice little fight back here for P9 and the open class win. Yeah,
most certainly. And I mean, it doesn't look like Andrew Kosick is closing this gap at all, but I mean, like Ronnie Coates to Simon Fullweather, I don't think he's losing much time either. But it looked like, I don't know, Jerry DiPiero had a faster lap than Tom Athan, but Andrew Kosick did not. So, I mean, that's the biggest part. If Andrew isn't going faster than Tom Athan, then they aren't closing this gap down. So it looks like at the moment they are not closing this gap down. But Brian Zabelski could help them just a little bit if Brian Zabelski starts to fight with Tom Athan. Because remember, in Spec 5, all the drivers go for the same points. There's no separate points in classes. They're using it as their racing as if every position counts, even though they are in different class championships. So it looks like a bunch more helpless cones were just murdered. Me as a cone activist, I'm furious right now. But looks like just, I mean, if Brian Zabelski starts to race Tom Athan, they could have a shot. But Simon Fullweather has gotten that gap well within drafting range now. So Simon Fullweather has now made himself a part of this battle for the lead with only 4 minutes left.
We see him really pushing that car, going a little bit wide there. You're going to have to wonder if he's saved enough tires to bring the fight to Mitchell Peak and Camden Hibbett. He's going to have to be opportunistic here. He's definitely in the best position. I would not want to be in the first two cars here in this situation, as if he can time this right, he's going to have a massive run coming up to one of the big braking zones.
Yeah, and it looks like closing this gap down even more using that slipstream down these straights. You can see his last lap was a 1:36.8. Meanwhile, the cars in front of them were running well in 1:37. So Simon Fullweather has really turned on the afterburners in the latter half of this race. So into the keyhole now, Simon Fullweather is there, and he really has a shot, but I mean, he has to pass 2 cars now. And the thing is, if he tries to go around Mitchell Peak, he's going to lose a decent bit of time to Camden Hibbett in doing that, so he has to just try and pick his battle and just try and make him. I mean, we could see him do something like he tried to do earlier. And now as Mitchell Peak goes to the inside for the lead, we're going to get a nice view with some popcorn from Simon Foweather's side here. It looks like Mitchell Peak going to get the lead from Camden Hibbett now. They're still just barely side by side as Simon Foweather now trying to take advantage of it now. He'll try to go to the inside of Camden Hibbett. Almost contact there. You can see sparks as they hit each other's bumpers. That's going to set Simon Foweather back just a little bit, but he is still right there, and that just proves how aggressive he can be. And what I was going to say was that we saw what Simon tried to do earlier in the race when he was trying to get a twofer at the same time as Camden Hibbett. If he gets close enough, he might be able to do that once more, especially since he has found a lot of speed in that Miata late in this race.
Mitchell Peak, with a very cagey move, knew that as Simon Foweather was approaching, that he was going to be the sitting duck out of the two of them, decided to go for the move and got it done. Now he's able to dictate who's going to win that race between Camden Hibbett and Simon Foweather. If Simon Foweather pops out for a nice big pass, he can move over and give him a little slipstream to make sure he gets alongside, and those two can fight and maybe have a chance to pull away. Now, if if Camden Hibbett decides to defend against Simon Foweather can just hold his line and get the draft from Mitchell Peak and still get around him. So the P2 spot is the one you really don't want to be in. Simon Foweather, though, in a really good position. We could see a pass here.
Yeah, and Adam, I saw your little message of support for Jerry right there. I'm on the same training as you. I really want him to try and fight for the lead here, but Camden Hibbett is going to have an opportunity for a move. It looks like Mitchell Peak going to defend the inside here. There goes Simon Foweather to the inside. He'll take advantage of Camden Hibbett going out wide. They almost made contact as they head through 4, now into 5. Still just dead even. This is exactly what Mitchell Peak wants now, as it looks like this time by they will be taking the white flag, so they're going to have one more opportunity as Simon Foweather not able to clear Camden Hibbett and vice versa. These two still fighting as they head towards Thunder Valley. They can't be doing this right now. Simon Foweather going to take the spot, but Camden Hibbett still racing him for it. And all the while, they are losing all of their time to Mitchell Peak. Their greed for second place has allowed Mitchell Peak to get almost a second gap, and unless Camden Hibbett does something, Mitchell Peak might have just won himself this race.
Exactly what I said was going to happen. Mitchell Peak was able to pick the winner of that race and got them to fight each other, and now he has a comfortable gap as we see Ronnie Coates hot on the tailpipe of Otis Adams Jr. in that battle for 4th place as they're taking the white flag. All the gloves are coming off now. Elbows will be out, and we'll see who's going to get this move done at the end of the lap.
Yes, the white flag out at Mid-Ohio. And now I think Simon Foweather has to realize he's made a mistake there trying to race Camden Hibbett, and might try and push him down this straightaway. They can't give up hope just yet. They still have pretty much an entire 3 sectors left to go before the checkered flag. So it looks like, Simon Foweather just not even able to make a move right now, just not close enough to do so. But Camden Hibbett is going to be pushing for his life, but he's still defending the inside. These two are still focused on racing each other. They can't be doing this right now, Randall.
You saw Mitchell Peak just decided to stay to the racing line and give that back trailing car. Camden Hibbett getting a lot of opposite lock there, really loose, but Mitchell Peak staying with the car that was trailing to try to bring them side by side again, and it worked for his benefit. There's a big gap there. Now they really are fighting for second best.
Yeah, and it looks like Jerry actually closing this gap down. I don't think he's close enough to try and make a move yet, but he's closed this gap down. I think if he had the lead that whole time, he could have brought them up towards Tom Athan, but I don't think he's close enough. But through the final couple of corners, Mitchell Peak through the final corner. Now he's got a comfortable lead, doesn't have to worry about anything. Through the final corner, Mitchell Peak is going to win at Mid-Ohio. Camden Hibbett and Simon Foweather are going to have to settle for second and third, and there goes Otis Adams Jr. across the line to finish 4th. Ronnie Coates and 5th. Nicky Borovic 6th. Lee Martin 7th. Greg Mack 8th. Tom Athan now in... Actually, Jerry could be in striking distance here if Tom makes a mistake, but it looks like no, as much as Jerry is pushing that car, it's not going to happen. Tom Athan is going to win in the open class. Jerry DiPiero going to end up P2. and Andrew Kosick is going to end up on the podium in third now. Brian Zabelski across the line. Sean Hayes, great recovery race from him to finish fourth in class. Tom Rath next to come across the line there in the 41 car, involved in that lap 1 incident as well. Decent comeback for him there to finish 14th, and now it's just waiting for everybody else to come across the line. Here's Greg Brockway. He'll be followed up by Jose Gonzalez as they head towards the start-finish line. In the back, you can see John Casey now, as it looks like Jose just already off the gas by the time he came across the line. John Casey heading across the line now, and just what a race.
Very interesting thing there. I think Tom Rathje spent the rest of that race writing a eulogy for Ray Lombardi after that spectacular crash at the keyhole. But what a fight up front we had for the lead, and what a fight we had developing there for the open class win. It's too bad this race wasn't just 5 minutes longer. I think Jerry would have caught him.
Yeah, I think if they had one more lap, Jerry might have had an opportunity to make him there, but just... I mean, I think maybe he was leading that pack the whole time. Or another thing is Tom Athan might have underfueled the car a little bit to get as big of a gap as he did, and just was trying to save all he could there. So he was lucky that was the last lap, but it looks like that is going to be it for your race tonight. So we'll see if we can pull up the results. Here they are. Mitchell Peak with the win, as Cameron Hibbett and Simon Foweather finished second and third after just racing each other too much for that spot. Otis Adams Jr. going to finish fourth. Ronnie Coates there in fifth. Nicky Borovic in sixth. Lee Martin there in seventh. Greg Mack in eighth. Tom Athan barely gets the open class win over Jerry DiPiero and Andrew Kosick in 10th and 11th, who were just right on his heels at the end there. Brian Zabelski is in 12th. Sean Hayes, great recovery race for him, is in 13th, as well as Tom Rathje there in 14th. Greg Brockway in 15th. Jose Gonzalez in 16th. John Casey in 17th. Josh Olson in 18th. And then behind them, we can get it to scroll just a little bit further back. Come on. Come on, Adam. You got it. I believe in you. There you go. Ray Lombardi, after flooring it into the turn 2 hairpin, ends up finishing 19th. Michael Coates there in 20th. Alexander Searle in 21st. And it looks like David Tamira did not start the race there. Finished 22nd. And what I would say is let's head to some interviews. But it looks like we do actually have some interviews.
Yeah.
And
we should join hands here and all close our eyes and focus on the spirits. And I think we're going to have Ray Lombardi joining us from the afterlife. Alex, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Ray. Oh, and he's gone. Okay. Oh, he's back. All right. Well, I'm a little perplexed as to what's happening right now. It looks like Ray, you don't got to be scared of the commentary booth, man. You've been up here before. But, walk us through that into the turn 2 hairpin, man. I mean, I got word that it was an equipment issue on your part, but I got to say it was pretty entertaining. All right, he's gone.
And he's gone.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have to fire up the Ouija board.
I think he's afraid of the commentary booth. I'm not exactly sure why. Oh, now we have Jerry in here. Looks like we might have an actual interview this time. So, Jerry, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So we do have an actual interview this time. So, Jerry and Andrew, I mean, how did you guys start closing that gap? I mean, first of all, great race from the both of you. That was absolutely fantastic. And second of all, I mean, what happened for the both of you? Because, I mean, you ended up maybe 2.5, 3 seconds behind Tom Athan there after the pit cycle, and you were almost right on his back bumper as the race came to a close.
Well, my best guess is that he was short on fuel, or he made some mistakes there, because Jerry and I were pushing each other really hard there, and we were closing the gap, but we closed up a lot of space in the last lap.
Yeah, we worked. I felt like we worked together to catch him, and you're right. We could have probably got Tom at the end there, but I need another 2 laps or so, and Andy was on me pretty good. So,
hey Jerry, it's Adam Thompson. You know me. How's
I
it going, man?
Unplugged his microphone.
Long time no talk, but hey,
how are you?
What was you and Andrew obviously were battling quite a bit coming through the pit stops. How much did working together help you guys towards the end? I know around that last corner, Andrew, anything goes, but you guys really did start to work together. I didn't expect Mid-Ohio to be as drafty as it was in these Miatas.
Yeah, as you can tell, Andrew had a couple more laps because he was drafting pretty good.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Absolutely. It was this place. I got in line with those guys, and I knew that we just needed to stay in the draft. Tom was making pretty good pace, and I just couldn't get a run. And I figured if Jerry and I got to racing, we'd lose their draft. So just started lifting, saving fuel, 3 different corners.
Yeah, we hooked up. I can tell we didn't talk to each other, but we knew what we were doing. That's for sure.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, Alex, I'll give it back over to you. I'm sure, Jerry, I'm going to talk to you here in a minute, but great race, guys. That was really exciting to watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I could have sworn we unplugged his microphone. I mean, he had to use the SDK overlay chat the entire race, and then all of a sudden, he just uses some magic there to get it back plugged in.
I think Randall, this thing. I have my ways, Alex. I have my ways.
Randall, I think next time we just got to take a sledgehammer to Arizona. So, but other than that, I mean, it was just a fantastic race from you guys, and I think definitely if you had maybe one more lap, you definitely gotten around Tom 8th in there. But just what was that race like? I mean, it looked like from our end, the track seemed a lot cooler than it should have been. So how difficult was it out there?
Probably one of my better tracks, I got to say. I usually do pretty good at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, Mid-Ohio's my home track in iRacing. I live an hour away. The last time I was in a real race car was on that track. If you think about it, late in the year, if we're following the seasons, it would be cooler. So the temperatures were actually great as far as I was concerned. Just get the tires warmed up and go.
Yeah, that's definitely what it looked like from our perspective. Anybody, either of you, want to thank before we let you go?
Thank you guys. Thanks for all the stuff, all the support, and all the help you guys give us, and all the broadcasting.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the broadcast. I want to thank Simon Foam Weather for putting me onto this league, and all the guys here for pretty much adopting me and letting me race with them. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, well, unless Randall has anything for you guys, that is all I have for you tonight. So congrats on 2nd and 3rd in the open class, Andrew and Jerry, and hopefully we'll be able to see you next week on time this time from Interlagos.
Whoa. What about me?
What?
I just wanted to thank you guys as well for putting on a great show every week. It's been amazing to watch, and we still have a few more races to go. So good luck to you guys and your future races here for the next few, and we'll be looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And that was your open class P2 and P3 finishers, Andrew Kosick and Jerry DiPiero. And I've managed to find, or maybe we're going to try again with Ray Lombardi.
Here.
Are the spirits moving? Are the spirits going to speak this evening? Ray, are
this
you there?
is the ghost. The actual ghost.
He's here. He's here.
Yeah.
So, Ray,
you didn't pay enough for the seance, man.
Wait, what am I doing?
I skipped on the crystal ball, and I should have gotten the good one, and this is what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, man, that was unfortunate, that incident. I heard your question, just couldn't respond because of technical issues, which you've probably have some experience with the last couple of hours and days.
Ray, watch it. Watch it.
I actually have discovered Adam Thompson's birth certificate, and his middle name is Technical Difficulties.
Yeah, isn't he an engineer in the Air Force, something like that?
Whoa! I thought we brought Ray in here to talk about his wreck and how bad he is, not how bad I am.
Nope. This is a roast session for Adam Thompson. Bring everybody in. We're going.
We're roasting everybody, man.
Get everybody in the server. Get them all in this call. We're going.
So, anyways, Ray, I do want to ask, man. The pit exit was interesting, and I heard you had a bad pit entry. I saw you guys throwing jokes at each other. Was it an actual hardware malfunction, or did you just kind of send it?
The hardware in my brain was the malfunction mostly. Because we had a penalty, Jose and I had a penalty, and that causes us to have the backmost pit stall. But I forgot about that when I entered, so it was like, maybe 4 or 5 feet after the cone, my stall was already there. I was like, shit, I had to brake and get back. So it took me like 10-15 seconds to actually like stand still at my stall, and I gave up everything I'd worked for. So I had some frustration. So when I came out, my pit exit was actually okay, and then Tom wound up next to me, and I was like, I'm not going to fight him again, man. It was not going to happen. So I took the easy way out.
Well, Ray, it sounds like we're going to continue this roast session. I had to drag Mitchell in here because he really wanted to get in on this. So, Mitchell, hello. We're talking about how Ray doesn't know how to turn right around turn 1. Turn 2, technically.
Apparently, turn 2, he decided to turn left right into a wall. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and say that his brakes failed in his car online. That's what happened.
I have to correct you. I didn't turn at all. My steering wheel was somehow broken. I don't know what happened.
Oh, no. Brakes and steering wheel at the same time? That's a rough go, man.
Those quick releases will get you. Sometimes the wheel just pops right off and you're just a passenger.
My face was just a passenger.
Really quiet.
See, I'm done. I'm the producer. You guys.
Okay, all right. My bad. My bad. Yeah. So, Ray, that was. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know you were disappointed with that, but I gotta say, personally, as a spectator, that was entertaining. So thank you. That made my night. That made my night. That was hilarious. But
honestly, I was happy to hear you laugh that hard. I was watching the broadcast just now, so that made me laugh. That you got caught off guard by that completely.
Well, I was not expecting that at all. I thought you were just gonna hit the brakes and turn to the corner, but just. Nope.
So here's what happened, Ray. I'm reading the YouTube chat, right? Because I'm so interested in what's going on in YouTube because I never have this many people talk to me because it gets pretty lonely down here in the production booth sometimes, right?
I can imagine.
So I see Mitch say, "Here it goes," and I see Ray say, "Here it comes," and then I see Ray say again, "Oh, it's coming." So I had to switch to him because I had no idea what was going on, and literally 5 seconds after I switched to you, I watched Miata fly further and higher than I thought was humanly possible. So that was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I actually thought that you'd watch it beforehand because it was perfect timing. I saw us talking about it, but I didn't know you would actually respond to that. I thought, you must have seen it before.
Oh no, I just got my computer started 30 minutes before the broadcast went live. So yeah, no, we were all in this together.
Well, that was just perfect production, man. Yeah, you had some good spotters in the YouTube chat. Maybe you need that more.
I know, absolutely.
Yep.
I'm going to take the reins of this interview back, and I want to swap our attention to Mitchell Peak. And Mitchell, you got the win at the end of the day here in Mid-Ohio, and I mean, it looked like it was all over as soon as Simon Foweather and Camden Hibbett started racing each other, but what was it like leading up to that?
Oh, that was a crazy race. So qualifying on pole was obviously the best thing that could have happened to me. And then I ended up leading the first half of the race. I think I pitted at the end of lap 15. So I led the first 14 laps. And, I took left side tires, and then Camden comes out of the pits with me. And I'm getting bumped before we're into turn 2. And then all of a sudden he's around me, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. This is crazy. I got to get back in front of him. So I make a move, get back in front of him, and a couple laps later, there goes Camden, and I'm like, man, I think I made the wrong call on tires. I think he's got the upper hand here, and all of a sudden Simon, he's 3 seconds back, and then he's 2 seconds back, and then he's 1 second back, and that all happened in 2-3 laps. So lap 26 comes around. I finally got to run down into China Beach, and I was like, I got to do it now because Simon's here. So made a move, and thankfully Simon and Camden started battling, and that allowed me on the last lap to just kind of take my time and coast it home on the last one. But yeah, that was not an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. It was a great race all around, and had a blast out there, and it was great. It was awesome. Great race.
It was definitely a very entertaining battle to watch from up here. And I mean, do you expect Simon Forward to close that gap down at all? I mean, we were watching him close that gap down, and I mean, in 2 laps, he went from 3 seconds to right on the back bumper of second place there. So I mean, what was your perspective of that?
I was freaking out. So my original plan was like, all right, on the last lap, I'm going to try to pass Camden because we got this nice cushy gap behind us. Like, no problem. It's all good. And then all of a sudden, like in those 2 laps, it's like, damn, Simon's right there. He was driving the wheels off that car. Like, I was watching the race here, and like he was just diving it in late on the brakes, and he was just driving like a madman. It was amazing to watch. And he closed it up, and that was all pure skill, 100%. So for me, I was like, I want no part of that. I was like, I got to get ahead and at least be the front car and hope that there's a battle behind me. And that's exactly what happened. But I mean, Simon's pace tonight, or last night, whatever you want to call it, it would have been, it should have been enough for the win for him. I kind of feel bad he didn't come out with it. He was showing some amazing skill out there. So I'll take this one.
So Mitchell, let me jump in here and let me ask you. Very early in the race, we saw Camden Hibbett make a move from third place that briefly got him that first position, and you were able to snatch it back from him. Did that set the stage for you for the rest of the race? Did you know you were going to have your hands full with this kid?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. When Michael Coates was behind me, he gave me a couple bumps down the straight going into China Beach. You know, we're going down the back straight. I'm like, he's probably going to pull out and try to go for first, lead a lap. Nope, bumps me. Okay, does it again. All right, he wants me to be out in front. And then I look in the mirror, and all of a sudden, Camden's the one behind me, and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. And he battles me, so I decide to battle him back, and I stay in the front. And it's like, okay, well, obviously he's, you know, race hungry tonight. He wants this one, so I kind of figured that was going to happen. You know, poor Michael, I think his computer died on him halfway through the race, and it just crashed, so he wasn't able to continue with the battle. Like,
yeah, that's what happened to me too, man.
Such a bummer. Such a bummer for him. But I mean, yeah, after the pit stop, it's anything goes at that point. And you know, Camden showed early on in that stint that he wanted to go for it, and I fought him back. And then, you know, lap 26, I ended up getting back in front, and that was the end of the race. But yeah, it was just not easy. Wasn't easy. Looked like it might have been, but that was a tough one.
So I've seen you last season in particular have a lot of issues with bad luck and dealing with traffic. Tonight, it worked out for you. Anybody you'd like to shout out or thank, besides Adam Thompson, maybe?
Shout out to all you guys for putting on this broadcast, especially on a Friday night, a day after the race happened. I think everyone who was in the watch party with us, I think this was our favorite broadcast that we've had with you. You should have heard the hooting and hollering. Like, we were laughing our butts off, and we were shooting digs at each other, and being able to be in the chat, watching it all go down at the same time. Like, I think we got to do this more often. Like, we all had a blast tonight, and it wouldn't have been without you guys. So thank you to everyone who was involved in putting it on tonight, a day late.
All right, well, it was a fantastic race from up here in the booth. Congrats on the win, Mitchell and Ray. Congrats on the most entertaining clip this season, I would say. But looks like that is all we have for you tonight. So congrats on what the both of you were able to accomplish tonight, and we'll hopefully talk to you next week on time from Interlagos.
Thanks, man.
Why do you keep throwing digs? Come on.
I just have one more question.
Why not?
For Mitch.
Why not? You got to get one more.
Oh no, one question.
Here we
for
go.
me. All right. Let's have
what was it like? What was it like after your pit stop chasing a ghost for 5 laps?
Oh man, I was wondering what happened, and then the suicide happened, and then it went away. So I'll take it.
Yeah, it was an actual ghost car. All right, thanks, guys. It was really fun.
It was Kit. It was Kit. All right.
It was a blast tonight, everybody. Awesome. Awesome stuff.
See y'all later. Congrats on what y'all both were able to do, respectively.
Alex,
Thanks. See you next time.
before you close out the stream, man, I just want to give a huge shout out and a massive thank you to you and Randall for doing this on a Friday night, which is not what we normally do, as you guys have clearly made it known to everybody that has been watching this. It should have gone live last night, but I definitely made an error. It's weird too because I'm in the Air Force and
because you're normally so perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in the Air Force and you're a Marine, man. So normally I don't make errors like you do, but I made one last night. So I apologize for that, guys. But thank you everyone for tuning in and just the view count that we had on this stream was amazing for Spec-5. Had 55 views go when we were live. So yeah, thank you guys, and yeah, that's it.
Let me jump in as well here as one of the administrators here at Slow Motion Broadcasting and say, if you like what you saw tonight, we are looking for more leagues, and if you have a Friday night league, this party could be your party.
I like that. That was good. I'm gonna let you start doing the closeout. Like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just giving you the mic from here on out, Randall. You got this.
What the hell?
Alex is a little put off now. Alex, would you like to? Alex, Adam, would you like to go through the upcoming broadcast and then Alex?
Oh yeah, we should probably pull up the upcoming streams here, shouldn't we? There you go, Alex.
It's a singular one. We got Spec-5 World Tour next Thursday at 9:15 p.m. EST. We return on time next time. Hopefully, Adam will bring us there from Interlagos there. But unless nobody has anything else, I'm going to close this out for us real fast. Adam's in the Air Force, Randall's a Marine, and I'm an idiot. This has been Race 5 of the Spec-5 World Tour from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and from the Slow Motion Broadcasting team. Have a good night.
Fly, fight, win. Good night.